Yes, that's right. It's Joe here live for Joyrider TV, back for some more scintillating catamaran sailing Q&A, where I am going to be tackling some pretty juicy questions about how to do better with your catamaran or sailing it. Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm just going to dive straight in with preloaded question number one. And we've got quite a lot of preloaded questions today. So, and it's quite a variety of different topics that we're going to be covering. So, strap in. Okay, so the first one is from my good friend Justin on Padre Island, Texas. It's a GoPro question, which of course I like GoPro questions. Don't ask me why, I don't know. And Justin asks, Joe, are you running the whipping twine line? Yes. So this is in response actually to the latest module in the Joyrider Classroom series, where I take a very deep excursion into everything that you could ever possibly need to know about filming yourself while you're out sailing. And yeah, and obviously not everything, because Justin had a question, but it's a good one. So Justin's question is, it's about security of the camera. And on these more recent GoPro cameras, you've got these folding legs where you attach it onto the mounting point, which would be like this. Yep. And it doesn't leave a huge amount of space for your security. But what I found to be the best solution is whipping twine. This is the very thin line that you get, which traditionally was used for whipping, which is like the old-fashioned version of putting a bit of electrical tape around the end of your rope to stop it from fraying. Yeah, so this whipping twine is so narrow that it does go, hold on, can we see this? Where the hinge is here, there's a very small gap. Maybe you can see, very small gap on the hinge, and the whipping twine is fine enough to go through there. And the good thing with whipping twine is, although this must be like 0.5 of a millimeter, if that, it's extremely strong. So we know that's not going to break. Now, the only downside of doing that is it means that one of your little fingers won't lie completely flat. Okay, yeah, but that is very good security line for your GoPro or other action camera. Now, what I've also used in the past, it's a little bit thicker, but on here, this is the GoPro Hero 7, which is the last one actually, which had an external case where the camera lives. Now on here, I've actually taken one single strand of Dyneema, just from like a piece of 3.5 millimeter. Sorry if you're if this metric talk is spinning you out, but it's all that I've got. Yeah, 1.5 millimeter Dyneema, 3.5 millimeter Dyneema, one strand, which is the right diameter to go through the hinge on here. But that is a good alternative if you happen to have Dyneema in your toolbox, no whipping twine, then the Dyneema could do the job. There we go. All right, there you go, Justin. Hope that helps. And I'd just like to say hello to everybody tuning in live, and hello to Hussein, who is the first to drop in the super sticker for tonight's initiative, which is called Keeping the Q&A ad-free. Okay, but before we, in fact, let's jump into the live chat, seeing as you're here on time. It's very good of you. All right, we've got Moto Dude on board. Apologies if I can't actually remember your real names from the YouTube handles. Yeah, Moto Dude has subbed, which if you're in the live chat at the moment, if you scroll to the top, I have. This is really exciting. In fact, I'm very, very excited about this. But while I was making the latest module in the classroom series about filming the action, the last chapter was about how you actually set up a YouTube channel. So you've got somewhere to put your filmed action once it's done. And in doing this, what I had the idea, what if I made a channel, a brand new channel called Joyrider Worldwide, where anybody can upload their video so that like, alone we are weak, together we are strong. Yes. The strength that we're going to get is in the popularity of this YouTube channel, which means if you've been sitting on some solid gold sailing footage or a video that you've edited and you're like, what am I ever going to do with this? And yes, you could post it on the Facebook Catamaran, what is it called? Hobie Cats group or Hobie Cat Sailboats group. And then it's kind of visible for a few days, maybe. Some people will watch it, but then after that, it's kind of lost and difficult to find. Whereas on a community YouTube channel, once it's uploaded, then it's there. It will have this library of videos for everybody to enjoy. And it means that anybody can get involved and upload their videos to this channel. So I've actually just finished working on a website page, well, on the homepage at totaljoyrider.com, where I've actually put it as the top item on there now about this new YouTube channel. So if you've got a video or some footage that you think people are going to like this, they're going to want to see this, then all you need to do is go to totaljoyrider.com, click on the link where you just put in your email address. You'll then get an invitation from Joyrider Worldwide, the YouTube channel, and then you'll actually be on there as one of the administrators and editor, where you can upload your video, and then there it will be. Yes, granted, there's not much action on there at the moment. I think we've now got about 6 or 7 videos on there. So do check it out, subscribe, and tell your friends. But more importantly, get involved and upload your videos on there. There's full instructions that you'll receive as well, because we don't want just videos just spewing out. There is going to be some strategy involved in launching as well. But that, I thought, is exciting and newsworthy stuff. So yes, thanks for subscribing there, Levi. All right, who else is on board? Bobby Bruce is with us. Yes, that's right. Bobby Bruce, the pilot of the mighty Hobie 21. Okay, and Hussein is on board, and Hussein is kicking us off with the super sticker, keeping the Q&A ad free. Thank you very much, Hussein. Then we've got some tech guys, 666. This is a fine question. What cat is that in the thumbnail picture? Yeah, that's the Tornado. And thanks for mentioning it. I thought that was a particularly good picture to have in the thumbnail. Yeah, it's the Tornado Bad Boy 94. And some tech guy says, I love your channel. I'm an ex-Hobie 18 owner. Great stuff. Yeah, I'm an ex-Hobie 18 sailor. I've probably sailed a Hobie 18, maybe let's say about 10 times. And that was, I think the last time would have been around 1999. Then we had 3 Hobie 18s, sold them, thinking we'll get the latest model, which was the Hobie Pacific. And then after that, kind of regretted not having a Hobie 18 anymore. Yeah. So Levi says tonight it's morning in Florida. Okay. Yeah, it's evening time here in Greece, where it has been absolutely chucking it down with rain now for 6 weeks. Yeah. So much rain. Yeah, cat sailing is so underrated. I couldn't help but agree. And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this new YouTube channel, so that we can try to spread the word wider about the joys of catamaran sailing. So far, actually, the contributor to that channel, because I've been in touch with him quite a lot, is Olympic medalist John Forbes from Australia, who has submitted some very interesting, like, historical pieces on there. There's well worth a look. And one of the things with this channel is I thought we'd put a suggestion on there that people keep their videos under 10 minutes long, so it keeps it kind of fresh and exciting, and not too, you know, not like a 40-minute video of you sailing upwind in 6 knots of wind. Yeah, that kind of thing. All right, continuing. All right, we have got Leland Lee is back in the live chat from Clearwater, Florida. Great to have you on board, Leland Lee. And news just in, I've actually literally just booked my flights for my first ever time coming to Florida. Yes, I'm going to be in Florida. I can't remember what the sailing club's called. Gosh, that is a bit of a shortcoming. It's near to Pensacola, Florida, in September on the 18th and no 7th. What would it be? The 18th and 19th of September. I'll be coming to Florida to participate in, I think it will be the first event of its type in the USA, which is the Formula Wave GP Grand Prix event there, which will be just before the Ocean Springs, Mississippi Hobie 16 International Regatta, where I'll be going the day after. So that is where I'll be. All right, Lee says duty changes have made it difficult to get to these. Yeah, job duty, sorry. Yeah, I know that for a lot of you, the what would it be, Friday morning is not an easy time to nip out of work to watch a bit, or to put a bit of catamaran sailing in your ears for an hour or an hour and a half or something. Yeah. All right, continuing. Moto Dude Levi says, Leland, I'm in Lake from Lakeland. What do you sail? Coming to the SC Wave competition in Claremont in March. Very good. Yeah, all right. So some tech guy says, what is the Tornado like to sail on? The Tornado is nothing short of the king of catamarans. For non-foiling catamarans, it really is. Even though it was designed and built in the 60s, it is still the ultimate because of the size of the platform. It's let's do this in imperial. What would it be? It's 20 feet long, 3 meters wide. Sorry, failed already. 3 meters wide. So the width of the boat is what really sets it apart from pretty much anything else. Because it's so wide, it means when you're flying the hull, you've got such control on the angle that the boat flies the hull because of the width. If you think about it, on a narrower boat, like on a monohull, can you keep the boat sailing at a perfect angle? No, it's going to be more twitchy because it's narrower. Whereas the wider you go, smoother hull flying. The length of the boat means you can control the angle of pitch much easier. And the carbon mast, tapered carbon mast on the Tornado means that your control of the shape of the mainsail is so much better than anything else. So when you're sailing upwind in trapezing conditions, you get a gust, you pull on the downhaul, and you know, a lot of the time, if it's windy, you get a gust, the hull starts going up. Very nice if you like flying a hull, but you don't necessarily go much faster. Whereas on a Tornado, you start lifting the hull, you pull the downhaul on, and the boat, you really feel the boat accelerate forwards. So because of this tapered carbon mast, I believe that's one of the main reasons. Also, it being so wide means you can pin down a lot of power. There we go. Yeah, but it really is a sensational boat to sail. If you come to Vasiliki, Lefkas, Greece, I've got one here. And yes, we can take it for a spin. All right. So some tech guy says I sailed my Hobie 18 about 10,000 times. Yeah, so many great memories, I can imagine. So Leland Lee says I sail at Gulfport Yacht Club. Won't make it to that regatta. We have a multi-hull regatta in GYC in March. Oh, GYC is that Gulfport Yacht Club? Okay, just scrolling down. We've got a new name to the live chat. DD Tech iFly. Okay, Hans from Denmark here. My FX1 is buried in snow right now, but see you all in Vasiliki in June. Yes, nice. Yeah, great to have you down here in June, Hans. I'll be around. I should be around anyway. So look forward to that. All right. So Tech Guy says, are tornadoes fragile, expensive to own? No, I would say for the amount of boat you get for your money and performance, the Tornado is possibly the best value catamaran you can get. For a Tornado with an aluminium mast, it does make the price difference significant, the type of mast that you have on there. But with an aluminium mast, you could pick one up for about 3,000 US dollars, and there is no more maintenance than you'd have on any other type of boat. In fact, the Tornado platform is so well built, so stiff, that it means there's less wear and tear to the platform, which actually makes it a very, very durable boat. Of course, you need to replace the rigging. If it's been exposed to the sun, the trampoline will have taken a beating, like on anything else. The ropes, the sails, all these soft parts do need replacing more regularly. But the platform and the mast, very strong, very durable. It's got shorter foils, shorter rudders and centerboards than a lot of the modern boats, which mean you're less likely to hit the bottom. Very, very well built. Okay. All right. Levi says, I'll see you at the Pensacola regatta more likely. Great stuff. Greg Stewart is on board in San Diego. Great to have you with us as always, Greg. Okay. Tech Guy says, I loved your speed videos where you display the real-time speed in the gusts. Yes. All right, and then we're just finishing with the Tornado chat for now. Do the hulls collapse on a Tornado, or do you need a tilting trailer? Yeah, when I transport my Tornado, I have a trailer, which means I have to take the boat apart completely. So the beams just unbolt from the hulls, and it's a lot quicker actually than even than a Hobie 18 to put together. Just because of the construction of the boat. Yeah, so I personally take it apart. And I think even given the choice, if I had a tilting trailer or if I had a trailer where I have to take it apart, I'd rather take it apart, because probably the minimum amount of time, I thought about this, the minimum amount of time I would actually tow the boat behind the car would be 5 hours. So for the sake of 30 extra minutes pack up time, to have it so much easier to tow, I would rather do that. And you know, if you've got it on a tilting trailer, the time consuming bit is the trampoline. So tilting trailer, trampoline on, if it's windy, whew, yeah, I wouldn't fancy it that much. I'd prefer to take it apart. There we go. All right. So just to conclude, yes, some tech guy, I could certainly share a large image of that thumbnail picture. Yeah, if you send me an email afterwards, I can sort that out. My email address is, I'm just going to type it into the live chat, live total Joyrider, that's me, at iCloud.com. There we go. Yeah, send me an email. I can send you that picture, because yes, it is an absolute Bobby Dazzler. There we go. Okay. Good evening. We're certainly off to a flying start. Great to have you all on board at this time. Okay, next question I've got in the preloaded section is actually from Bobby Bruce, who is in the live chat even as we speak. And this one is on the topic of rudder cavitation. All right. So I'm actually prepared already. Yeah, there are two rudder setup things that can really affect your enjoyment and your handling of your boat. The first one, and this is the one we're not really going to talk about, is the rudder rake. So if the rudder is allowed to come back from the back of the boat like this, what that's going to lead to is heavy steering. So if when you're sailing your boat, you're constantly having to absolutely pull like someone who pulls something on the tiller extension to keep it going in a straight line, this is very heavy steering, and heavy steering is generally created by the rudder blade being too far back, which means there's too much load going on that. So if we've got our rudder stock, that would be like if the rudder blade is, this is all the way down, my hand is the rudder blade. If the rudder blade doesn't lock all the way down, or it'll probably come down when you lock it down, but as soon as there's pressure on it, it will come back like this. Then that is going to make the steering extremely heavy. So action must be taken. But that's not what Bobby's talking about. Bobby's talking about cavitation. Now, cavitation is that feeling that you get when you start traveling with a bit of speed generally, and it's a feeling that you get that the rudders no longer grip correctly. The boat doesn't steer right. It might mean that the boat suddenly slows down. To me, it feels like we've just thrown a bucket off the back of the water, off the back of the boat, sorry, attached to a line. So it feels like the brakes are going on. Rudder cavitation can also make the boat want to nosedive a little bit more. And the reason for rudder cavitation is because, let's say this is the leeward hull. The reason is because the rudder isn't resistant from going side to side. So because the pressure is going to be on this side, the rudder blade is going to start going over like that. And at the stock, it's going to go, it will just seem like it moves a little bit. But if you amplify that down the length of the rudder blade to the tip is going to move a significant distance. And what happens is that means we're going to get an air pocket on the windward side of the rudder blade. And because of that pocket of air on that side of the rudder blade is no longer working correctly. And that big pocket of air and turbulence there is just like the brakes are going on big time. And, you know, sometimes you can cure rudder cavitation just by giving the rudders a bit of a shake. And what that might do is just help to break up any air pockets that are formed on the windward side there. And then you can steer again. But if it's happened once, it's likely that it's going to happen again. Now, with this rudder cavitation, another byproduct of this is what it does is it puts more load on the rudder blade, because it's like when that happens, it's like there's more pressure trying to push the rudder backwards. So what that might do is actually make your rudder kick up, you know, unlock from the system prematurely. So, and you think, oh God, every time I start going fast, my rudders kick up. So what do you do to combat that? You go back to the beach, you get your screwdriver, you tighten up the adjustment screw inside the rudder stock, or whatever your method of adjustment is on your rudder system. But it's not that is the problem. It's this cavitation which is the problem, which is making the rudder kick up. And then you've got the problem because you've tightened your rudders up so much. If it's a Hobie, you've got the problem that your cams keep inverting because you've just tightened them up so much. So yes, we need to fix this rudder cavitation problem. Now, it comes from two different places. The first place that it comes from is where the rudder pin goes into the rudder stock and into the gudgeon on the back of the boat. So best way of checking this is, first thing to do is when the boat is on the land, if you've got your boat on a trolley, so that we can get the back of the boat right off the ground enough that we can put the rudder down, then lock the rudder down and see how much it moves from side to side. And while you're moving it from side to side like that, just have a look and see where it is that the movement is coming from. So if it's coming from between the rudder stock and the rudder pin, or the pintles in the back of the boat, or if it's going between the rudder pin and the gudgeon on the back of the boat, then what that means is we're either going to need to replace the rudder pin because it's become worn, or we need to add bushing to the holes in our sorry, where are we? We're here in our rudder stock, so that we get a snugger fit between the rudder pin or the pintles and the rudder stock. So we do a bit of work to take that play out from between the stock and how it anchors to the back of the boat. So that is phase one, because that movement between this and the back of the boat from side to side like this, that is really going to lead to some serious cavitation. Because if you haven't ever had a look at that, chances are that is going to be pretty significant. The second bit is easier to fix. Have I? All right. So yes, we have. All right. So the second place it could be is between the rudder blade and the stock in here, like this. Much easier to fix. First thing to do to fix that, and I'd like to thank Aubrey, the Hobie 14 sailor with the skull and crossbones on the sails, who I met at Hilton Head, South Carolina, USA last year. He's actually 3D printed a whole bag of spare parts. Like, I'm ready to try out 3D printed rudder cams. Yes, ready to try. And he's printed out some really nice looking shims. So these shims, if I do one of them, that will go up against the casting there. So we've got casting, shim, rudder blade, shim, casting. So these shims are going to help to take that movement out of the rudder blade. We can also just tweak the bolt a little bit, you know, just tighten her up a bit. And the way that I determine if the tension in that bolt is correct is if I lift the rudder blade, and it should then just slowly drop down under its own weight. That is how I gauge it when I'm having a look at the boat like that. But yes, shims. The other thing that I've done in the past, and this is better if you're sailing a boat which has what I call the open rudder stock. So I call this a closed rudder stock because you can't get to the inside. But if you sail a boat like a Hobie 18, where the rudder stock is like just the outline of this, what I've done with all of the Hobie Tigers at Wildwind is actually stuck rubber to the inside of the rudder stock to really take that movement out. That makes a big difference. I think you could do it with a 16, but a lot of the time it's really snug already, so difficult to do that. So that is the cure for cavitation. But while we're on, just while I've got this in my hand, if you are doing a bit of a rudder service, like if it is your winter at the moment and you're doing this sort of work, one other thing you should definitely do is just inspect the inside of your rudder stock, your casting, because if it's a cast aluminium one like this metal is really soft, and if this gets knocked at all, it bends inwards, making a sharp little gouging piece, which is going to basically cut into the outside of your rudder blade. So just take a file to the inside of your casting and just take the edge off a little bit, just because that is really kind for your rudder blade. Because if you keep gouging away at your rudder blade, eventually it's gonna snap. Oh, incidentally, Aubrey also 3D printed some bush. Yes, which I'm looking forward to having a spin on that as well. Very nice. Okay, so there we go. Back into the live chat. I hope that is useful to you, Bobby, and it can be applied to make your boat handle better at speed. Just trying to find out where we are. All right, so Tech Guy says, when the cams wear out on Hobie 18s and the rudders go back, they have extremely heavy steering. Yes, for sure. Okay, this is a good question from Levi. Yeah, is there any update on the Speed Stick app? No, Speed Stick app is still in the hands of the developers. But yeah, when this app comes out, I'm going to say, don't worry, the announcements will be very loud, so that you can hear them wherever you are in the world. I will definitely be. There's been a lot of work going into this, mostly by Declan, That's why he doesn't come to the Q&A, because he's busy working on the app. But it is it's coming. It's coming. Definitely. All right. So Mr. Tony KP is on board in Ebeltoft, Denmark. Great to have you with us. All right. Bobby says my old 16 screams like a banshee at around 10 knots. Crikey. All right. Bobby says I have used 3/8 brass shaft bushings on the rudder stock. Nice. Yeah, that would certainly do it. Okay, Tech Guy says I'm a developer. Is this an open project? Yeah, I've got it's being worked on at the moment, but if you email me, we can talk about it, and I can send you pictures and boat pictures, and maybe we can see what we can see. Thanks very much for the offer. All right, so Levi says racing my first race this week of March with no racing experience. Any suggestions? Racing a wave. I've watched all the racing classroom videos. That was a help for sure. Yeah, I think I put a lot into that racing module. And I think if it's not in there, then what would be a good suggestion if you were going to your first race? Just have a really good idea of a weather forecast. Things that weren't in the module, things like make sure you take with you on your boat, dress a little bit warmer than you think you need to, because once you're cold, even if you're going to be in Florida, where I dare say it's warm every day of the year, once you get cold, it's difficult to come back from that. Food and water on the boat, not too much, but enough just to keep you going. What else? And the best thing about going to regattas is your ability to talk to other sailors, and everybody really likes to help the new guy coming into the fleet. So ask as many questions as you can to the other sailors in the fleet, because those guys will know more about how to get the most out of your boat than anybody else. Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to go on to the next preloaded question, because I have got a few. And this one is from Wikatika, who says, could you talk about flying a hull? He's got a Hobie 14 turbo and finds it difficult to lift the hull high enough to get the hull flying. Yeah, we can certainly talk about this. So what would, the 14 is going to be more difficult than the 16 because of the size of the hulls. Like when you start flying the hull on a Hobie 14 and loading up that leeward hull, you're really going to be a lot closer to the edge than you would be on a boat which has got more volume in the hulls, like a Hobie 16 or an 18 or anything else, or a Formula 18 or a Tornado or a Hobie Wave or anything else. So what could be useful there? I would say point of sail is the first thing. So best point of sail is depends on the wind strength a bit, but let's say we're looking at about a good bit of wind to go out and start experimenting with flying the hull would be about 10 to 12 knots of wind, and just start off sailing the boat upwind like you would do normally. Get the jib cranked in, traveller in the middle, main sheet in, and just see how the boat is wanting to lift up. And if you're finding that the boat doesn't want to lift the hull, maybe you don't feel like you've got enough power, then we've got two things that we could do, which is going to help to lift that hull more. One of those things would be if we take this as the sailor on the boat. So here we are looking from behind, and we're finding it difficult to get the hull lifted, then making sure that you're secure on the boat. So I would certainly look to either put one foot, just the toes under the toe strap, or the heel of your foot into the center of the trampoline lacing. We're just going to really want to make sure that we're not going to slip down the trampoline if the boat does start flying. And we want to position ourselves over where the majority of the volume is on the hulls. So about 6 inches back from the shrouds is a good spot. So because this is where the hull is at its widest, and that's where we want to load the leeward hull up. We don't want to be loading the bow up too much. We don't want to be popping a wheelie, because then we're going to be losing power by bringing the mast back too much. So as the hull lifts up, if the hull isn't lifting up, we're in the sweet spot there. We'll just move our weight slightly more towards the center of the boat. If the hull still isn't lifting up, we'll come a little bit more into the center. How far are we going to move into the center of the boat? We're going to move, how far are we not going to move into the center of the boat? Don't move so far that you feel that you're losing control of the boat, because as you move into the center of the boat, you might find that even if the tiller extension is kind of behind you, you can't really see that, can you? But the tiller extension is going to be coming more into the middle, which means it's going to be much more difficult to steer. And we definitely need the ability to steer there. So I would say if you're having to sit further inboard than the toe straps, then we're going to, on this course, it's not windy enough to get the hull lifted. So what are we going to do? Let's get back so we're sitting over the hull, because as we get further outboard, it is definitely easier to control the boat, both because of the angle of the tiller extension and the main sheet. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to turn the boat a few degrees away from the wind, and that is going to give us a bit more power. So bit more power. Is the hull lifting? Yes. Great. We're going to keep everything as it is. Hull not lifting, then we'll do the same thing again. We'll start working our way in towards the center of the boat. If you are feeling really brave, let's say, or if you really want to try something, and if you've got safety cover, someone who can come and help you if you capsize, then what you can actually do, I did put a short video on somewhere. It might have been Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, one of those places, where you can actually sit on the leeward side of the boat. It means you have to put your mind into reverse about which way you're steering the boat. And when you're sat on the leeward side of the boat, it really doesn't take very much wind to start lifting that windward hull. Again, focus your weight over where the most voluminous part of the hull, so that you're less likely to dig the nose in excessively. So you can go all the way to the leeward side, and then I would say you could, from the leeward side, you should be able to lift the hull in about 6 knots of wind, not much at all. But once it starts flying, you really need to have good control of the boat, because it is, of course, very easy to capsize from this position, because to move your weight uphill, as the hull's lifting, to go uphill and stay in control at the same time, tricky. So you need to be completely in control of the boat using the steering and the main sheet. Yeah. So tricky, but achievable the further we go in towards the middle of the boat. Yeah. And then we can use a combination. Once the hull's flying, I'm pretty satisfied that we're going to get the hull flying. If it just won't fly and you don't feel like you want to go on the leeward side, and quite honestly, I don't blame you for that. It is difficult and unnerving, and the chance of capsize is high. But if it won't fly the hull, having done all this, then it's just not windy enough. That is the bottom line. All right. So once the hull is flying, then we've got 3 elements that we can use to control the angle that the hull is flying. The best one to use is just our upper body weight. If the hull starts coming down, we lean in. Hull starts going up, we lean out. So just very subtle movements, because what we're trying to do is keep everything as smooth as possible. We could keep our upper body in the same position and use this hull flying as an exercise in control, where we use the main sheet. Hull comes up, sheet out an armful of main. Hull comes down, sheet in. And the aim of the game there is, as soon as you feel the hull dropping, sheet in. Same if you're using your body weight. Soon as you feel the hull dropping, lean in. So we're trying to keep the hull flying at exactly the same angle at all times. Very nice. Okay, so the third way that we're going to control it is with the steering. And to be honest, that to me is the least, what would you call it? Least it's the least sort of dignified way. Dignified, that's not the word that we were looking for, but least sophisticated way of controlling the angle of heel. We really want to keep the boat going in a straight line as much as we can. So I'd say number 1, body weight, number 2, main sheet, and number 3, steering. But worth practicing with all of these. Just isolate one, practice with that one, and that is going to make you a much better sailor. It's going to give you a greater feeling of control of your boat. You're going to have a greater awareness of how much main sheet it takes to control that angle of heel. There we go. All right, back into the live chat. All right, so DD Tech Eye, does it say iFly? My eyesight isn't that good, to be honest. Tech iFly says Hobie 17 is getting quite old. Looking at the FX1. Oh, look at the FX1, great for solo. Yes. Oh yeah, this is in response to Tech Guy saying, what do you think of the Hobie 17 as a single hander weighing 100 kilos? Yeah, the Hobie 17 is a tricky one, actually, because it's got the power, big old sail on there. It's got the picnic benches, very nice, very comfortable, but it's low volume hulls. It means it's a tricky boat to sail. I think the FX1 as Tech iFly says is a great choice of single-handed boat. You can pick them up for not too much money, and the big improvement with the FX1 is the hull shape. It's a modern hull shape, loads of volume, and with the spinnaker on there, it's a very interesting boat to sail, even in a light wind. And yeah, with the spinnaker up, you get the hull flying downwind. Now that is a great feeling. Okay. Hussein says, check the module. Yes. In one of the earlier modules, I did do a chapter on flying the hull. And Hussein said, instructions of flying a hull are amazing. Yeah. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Joyrider Classroom series, it was Hussein's idea, basically, because the Q&A, we talk about a great number of topics. But if you want to do a deep dive into one topic without having to do endless searching through the different Q&As to find out where it is, then I started recording the Classroom series kind of like this, but more organized and less, I know the sort of words that I'm going to say, and it's edited as well. So we do a deep dive into many different aspects of catamaran sailing. In fact, we've done, there's not much that we haven't done at this time. We've done 14 modules now. Each module is about 80 minutes of this. And it's a great way to get a deeper understanding about all things catamaran sailing. I'm going to advertise it now. 3 ways of accessing it is you could become a Joyrider TV channel member. It's for the Joyrider Academy channel members. I believe the monthly subscription cost is something like £10, might be €10. To be honest, I can't remember. And it's the same if you prefer to get off YouTube and do it on Patreon, which is another site where it's another subscription service. For it costs the same. Or if you just wanted to own the whole Classroom series forever, then selling the whole series for €150, I think it is, which is available through Patreon at the moment, because I haven't organized another way of doing it. But there we are. Yeah, so that is the Classroom series. I think it is a great way of getting a deeper understanding into catamaran sailing. And it certainly has been keeping me busy over the last few months. And yeah, and there we are. I think that is that. So Tech Guy says, I once took out a Hobie 16 owner on my Hobie 18, asked him where his trapeze harness was. He said he never used it ever. We spent the afternoon on the wire. He also had an exciting time, let's say. Very nice. The hull came up. All right. Yes. And yeah, I'm just scanning through your comments, Tech Guy, just because I've still got a lot to go through. But one good point is when working the main sheet, a ratchet on the main sheet block is essential. This is another thing. If you've picked up perhaps an older boat, and maybe you feel like there's a lot of load on the main sheet, then the center sheave in the main sheet, you can see that it's got some texture on there. And that texture is, this one's an auto ratchet, which means the ratchet part only engages when it's under a certain amount of load, which means in light winds, or if you're sheeting out like when you're tacking, there's no ratchet, so it sheets out very easily. But in heavy winds, when it's under load, the ratchet will engage. And what that ratchet does is offers some resistance to the main sheet, making it easier to hold the rope in your hand, easier to sheet in, and that you don't have to rely on the cleat quite as much. There we go. Okay, back to the preloaded department. All right. Yeah, Tech Guy says, I Googled FX1 and got your video. Yep. That's the sort of thing that happens actually. I have sort of created a monster in a way that if I need to find any information about catamarans, catamaran sailing, set up things, and I Google anything Hobie especially, it's me who turns up in the search. Yeah. All right. So we've got Rich. Yes. Oh, this is a completely different topic. Rich sails a Formula 16. I think it's a Viper that Rich has got. And he just like an explanation into the takeaway system that we use for the jib sheet and the downhaul. All right. Very good. So we've got, let's say this is our front beam. Yes, it's very short, very wide. This is for illustration purposes. Okay, so what this takeaway system is on a boat like a Formula 16 or Formula 18 Tornado, something like that, especially boats which have a self-tacking jib, we don't want to end up with a load of rope on the trampoline. These boats also have a very powerful downhaul system, which can lead to a lot of excess rope. So we have a takeaway system and two types of system that are generally used. One that takes everything away into the front beam, the more common perhaps, or the other that takes the ropes away under the trampoline. So here we go. What we'll have is inside the beam, we'll have a pulley block on the inside of the beam at both ends. And this will be a block which has been like we have a bulkhead at the end of the beam where we can just tie that block onto. And then, okay, I should have done some preparation here. I'm trying to remember how we're doing it. All right, so then if we have, let's say we're doing the downhaul, for example, downhaul red. So the downhaul comes down from the mast in through a hole in the end of the beam. And then when the downhaul is pulled on to its fullest, and we want that to be even on both sides. So when it's pulled on tight, if we have the Joyrider TV calibration sticker, that'll be pulled on to number 4, full beans. Yes. All right. Then the rope should be the length that will mean that on both sides, it stops just short of the block on the side. Okay, are we all good so far? I hope so. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am, because this is good stuff. All right, so then we're going to have elastic inside the beam. Now, we don't want to have super fat, chewy elastic, which isn't going to have much give. I would say the thickest that we want is 5 mil. Okay, if you're imperial, you'll have to translate that into what would it be, inches. So that attaches onto elastic there. The elastic then goes round this block, and then if we really want it to work nicely, we'll have a double block at each end. So this is, let's think about this. Yeah, so this will be the elastic just with a small amount of tension in it. So let's have a second block there. and a second block there. But realistically, these might just be double blocks instead. Okay, so then this will go around this one, round that one, and tie off to the other end there. So that means when this is pulled, so when it's like this, the elastic should just be under a slight amount of tension, small amount of tension. So on an F18, boat is 2 meters 60 wide, which means the elastic has to be 1, 2, 3 times the width. It'll be 3 times the width of the boat minus 10, 15%, something like that. Okay. And then that means, you know, most of the time you're not going to be sailing with it maxed out. So when you ease it out, this elastic is going to really nicely pull it into the beam. The end of the beam, looking onto the end like that, we'll have like 2 holes into the end of the beam like this. And then what it should look like is that rope just disappears into the beam and gets taken away very nicely. So there we go. That is the very simple downhaul system. Now, Nacra have got on their new boats a really nice takeaway that works, I'd say, even better than this system. And they've got a really good rigging guide on the internet as well. So if you want to know more, then that is what you can do. All right. So, yeah, Tech Guy says, your content is fantastic. I love this. I've got sailing fever again, although all of our lakes are iced over. Yeah. All right. This is a very good question, actually. This is from Andre. I think it's Andre, who says, on the Tornado, like in the thumbnail picture of this video, why is it that your centerboards stay down all of the time, but on a boat like a Formula 18, which has got dagger boards, you lift the dagger boards, especially when going downwind? All right, this is a very good question. And so if we've got our Tornado, now the difference here is because we're sailing on the Tornado with low aspect pivoting centerboards. So what this means for a starter is we can't ever sail the boat, well, unless it's like shallow water and we're going slowly. But if we were to put the pivoting centerboard, here we are, halfway up, it would dramatically change the center of lateral resistance on the boat. So what is that going to do to the way that the boat handles? Well, let's just put the sail up. Yeah, the sail's a bit small for this boat. In fact, it's the wrong way around as well. That's not going to work. All right, but so if our center of lateral resistance comes too far back and our center of effort is here, it's going to put the center of effort of our rig too far forwards in relation to the center of lateral resistance, which means when we're sailing along, center of effort is, well, center of lateral resistance there, center of effort there. It means we're going to get mega lee helm. Lee helm is where the boat is trying to turn away from the wind all of the time. And to stop it from happening, you're having to push the tiller extension away from you to keep the boat going in a straight line. So that is what happens if we try sailing a tornado with the centerboards halfway up. The other reason why it's not so important to lift them, like you could put it all the way up, but is that because they're really short, it means you don't have to fly the hull very much until you've got so little centerboard in the water that it really doesn't justify the amount of faff it would be to have to swap them over every time you tack or jibe. So that is why we're not sailing with the centerboards lifted on a boat like this. Okay. All right. So we've got a lot in the preloaded today. Oh, and by the way, we've been going for 1 hour and 6 minutes. So no further questions in the live chat, please, unless, of course, it's accompanied by a super sticker, in which case then we can talk about it. But so this is from Ron, who says, flying just the main and a jib, what is the fastest point of sail? Okay, this is another topic that I'm reasonably into. What is the fastest point of sail without a spinnaker? That's what we're saying. Here's the wind coming straight down like this. So traditional fastest point of sail it's always been said to be the beam reach, sailing straight across the wind. But because of the speed of the Catamaran and the amount of speed that we can go on a beam reach, that means we create all of this induced wind, which is coming straight towards the boat, which means the beam reach, who's saying that it's a beam reach anymore? Because like the true wind is giving us a beam reach, but then this induced wind is meaning that our apparent wind is more like this, which means we can actually come away from the wind more and go even faster. Yeah. So how do we know what this angle is? To have the boat sailing as fast as possible, we need to have the windward hull just clear of the water. Pretty much so that we've got just the tip of the rudder blade in the water, so that the hull is just occasionally catching the chop or the waves. So we want to have the hull out that much. So how do we know what the angle is where we're going to go faster for a given wind strength? It is going to be as far downwind as possible, where we can keep this windward hull lifted to that specific angle, and preferably be double trapezed at the same time. That is the angle that is going to give us the fastest speed. Thank you very much, Ron, for your question. Hope that clarifies that. At this time, I'd just like to say I hope you like my new t-shirt. Yes, this is brand new for 2026. This design available at totaljoyrider.com. I've collaborated with a British designer, Lucy Harris, who has come up with some, I like to call it retro style t-shirt designs. Yeah, so there we go. Available on a t-shirt or on a hoodie if it's a little bit chilly. Thank you very much for your time. All right, so we're continuing. Oh, actually, we're into the live chat. We've got NSC Viper 16, no prizes for guessing what you're sailing there. We made the mistake of redoing our takeaway system for our Viper for the downhaul and the jib. I got completely confused with the amount of elastic and needed to make it work again. Yes. I think especially if it's a slightly older boat, the amount of stuff going on inside the front beam, like I think after getting my Tornado, it was 10 years and there was still stuff in the front beam which I didn't know what its purpose was, or and at some point you've just got to rip it all out and start again. But it feels very good to have it all out of there and to redo the system. So good luck to you. It works, just not as good as it did before. Yeah, it takes a bit of trial and error, to be honest. It took like I did the video on the Hobie Tiger replacing the takeaway systems, and for that specific boat it took me a lot of trial and error to get the lengths of the lines correct. So like if your elastic is a little bit too short, then it means that it doesn't let it out very easily. If it's too long, it means when you've pulled the downhaul on, for example, you've still got loads of rope. But the thing that is always the problem with the system that I just showed, with it not being continuous, is that you have to keep the jib sheets and the downhaul balanced so you have the same amount kind of pulled on both sides. Levi, any suggestions for telltales? Finding old cassette tape for some film is proving difficult, or anything that won't hold water like yarn. Yeah, for telltales on the sails and on the bridle wires, like wind indicators, if I can't find the right, like I use videotape for the wind indicators on the front of the boat and cassette tape for the telltales on the jib if I'm not using wool, then what I will do is, perhaps it's not something that is quite as readily available for everyone, but spinnaker cloth, that is the best. So if you head to your friendly local sailmaker and say, have you got any offcuts of spinnaker cloth? Or if you go and look around a sailing club after a really heavy wind day where there's been some spinnakers getting destroyed, spinnaker cloth is the best, and then cut it into strips. That is what I'm going for. Yeah, but I still find the spinnaker cloth is really good, actually, and you get it in a color so it looks nice, rather than using the black VHS tape or like data tape. I think that's the best. All right, so we've just got 2 more questions in the live chat, and these are always the difficult ones in the preloaded. Sorry, from Simon. This was a question that he posed on Facebook, and it was a little while ago, but there was no Q&A last week, apparently. So Simon would like to join the Catamaran sailing fraternity. Really keen on a Hobie model or Nacra. Could you suggest out there if a 16 or 18 foot boat to start with, considering that I would have a partner with me? Yeah. So, and the other question that we've got is from Jerry24, who says, what cat would you recommend for a heavier sailor? Jerry's 95 kilos. That is, I think, 215 pounds, something like that. Yeah. So I would say, if you're going to be sailing, I think a lot of it comes down to weight, where if you are constantly going to be sailing with more than 160 kilos on the boat. Sorry, I'm just going to translate this. 160 kilos, which is 352.74 pounds. If you're going to be sailing with more than 352 pounds on the boat regularly, like if your normal sailing partner is on there, then let's even put that down. What do we say? 160. I'm going to stick to kilos because that's what I know. 160 kilos. Then any lighter than that, then it's all about the Hobie 16. Now, why the Hobie 16? First reason, the Hobie 16, there are more Hobie 16s in existence in the world than every other single catamaran put together. So for that reason, it means finding a Hobie 16 at the amount of money that you want to spend in appropriate condition is more likely than with any other type of boat. So that is the number one reason for choosing the Hobie 16. And if you're wondering, that's why we talk about the Hobie 16 on Joyrider TV more than any other type of boat. It's because there's more of them. Now, why else the Hobie 16? The Hobie 16 does require good technique. So, because of the shape of the hulls, it's overpowered. The volume is too low. It means you've got to have good technique if you're going to sail it and enjoy it. So if you're going to get into this sport, it is worth having good technique because then you're going to enjoy the sport more. Yeah, and you'll be able to deal with a lot more conditions than you would be able to otherwise. So another great reason for the Hobie 16. Third good reason for the Hobie 16 is it is absolutely fantastic to sail. Feels great. It's good single-handed or with a crew. Granted, it's not as perfect for single-handed as certain other boats, but if you just want to go out, have a good time, and have more power in less wind, Hobie 16 with the main and the jib in 8 knots of wind is really, really good fun. There we go. So other alternatives for this, the problem with these what's good for first cat question is the answer could be pretty much anything. That is why these questions are difficult. Another good one would be, depends where you are as well. I would say a Dart 16 is a good choice as well, or one of the more modern equivalents. I don't know how many Dart 16s made it to the USA, but yeah, great choice of boat for getting into the sport. Very easy, no boom. Or if you don't mind it being a little bit more fragile, the Dart 18. Very good. And this is going to work for Jerry at 95 kilos. Either of the darts, it's going to work because they've got enough volume for a single-handed 95 kilo sailor. Now, not the difficulty, but the thing we're going to have to think about is if you're going to sail single-handed sometimes, with a crew sometimes, which if you've got a crew of a similar weight, then suddenly your boat is feeling pretty small, whether it's a Hobie 16 or a Dart 16 or 18, or let's say, or a Nacra 500 or 5.0. Yeah, really good until you're getting more than 160 kilos on the boat, and then you're going to need something bigger. So what would be a good choice? I don't know if either of you guys are in Germany, but it could be a Top Cat. I couldn't say which Top Cat. My Top Cat knowledge is somewhat limited, but let's say the Top Cat K2. It's a bigger boat, 18-foot boat, but with significantly more volume than the Dart 18, which means it carries weight better. Could be the Nacra 5.7 or 570. Great boat, skeg hulls. 3 different hull types that you could look at, which would be, I'm not going to draw it, asymmetric hulls. These are like the banana shaped hulls that we get on a Hobie. Could be skeg hulls like those. This is a skeg hull like what we'd have on the Dart 18. Where's my asymmetric? Here we go. Asymmetric hull would be more of a banana shaped hull like this, or a hull with a centerboard. As a first boat, I would generally avoid having centerboards or dagger boards because you don't want it to be too complicated. But the other thing you have to think about is, are you considering having this boat forever, or is it going to be a stepping stone type of boat? Okay, other suitable bigger boats, if we are going to just dip a toe into the arena of centerboards, then the Hobie 18. Fantastic. The reason the Hobie 18 was created was to have a more performance boat for the heavier sailors, who were finding the Hobie 16 a bit limited with its volume. So there we go. And we could go on, but unfortunately, I am coming towards my time constraint for this session. So I'm just going to finish off in the live chat, and then there will be. All right, another one from Levi. What is a wave flopper stopper and how does it work? Oh, before I go on to that, we've got Trisha on board. Hi, Trisha. Great to have you with us. Trisha says, I use thin ribbons as telltales. Yeah, that is a great shout, actually. I've never even thought of that. But you could get like the ribbon that you might use for tying up gifts. Just cut a section off that. That is going to be very nice. Yeah, and available in a variety of different colors, which I think is important also. But the flopper stopper on the wave. Okay. All right, by the way, on the topic of different types of boat, yes, there is another boat explainer video coming on Sunday, which eventually will have done them all. And there will be some very good information on which type of boat is suitable for which type of sailor. Or if you want something sooner, I did make 2 videos this time last year, which were called the Catamaran Knowledge, part 1 and 2, which basically talk about pretty much, let's say pretty much every type of catamaran and what sort of sailor they are appropriate for. So just go on the Joyrider TV YouTube channel and just do a little search, or you could just go back through the pages of videos. You're looking for the Catamaran Knowledge for that. But okay, the flopper stopper on the Formula Wave, on the Hobie Wave or Formula Wave. Oh, I dropped my hull. All right. Anyway, so the rig on a Hobie Wave or the Formula Wave is generally set very loose. This is just to get the most efficiency when sailing upwind, to get the mast far enough back. It's not ideal. I've dropped my Hobie Wave, so we're onto a there's no recovering from this. Okay, so, All right, we're just going to use this hull because of the shape of the hulls on the Wave. What it means is we need to have the rig for upwind performance really far back, which is so that we on the Wave with the asymmetric hull, sorry, with the skeg hull, the skeg is back here, and then we've got the rudder blade. And what we're trying to do is put the center of effort of the mainsail as far towards that skeg as possible to get the boat driving upwind. Okay, so that is why we have the mast so far back. Okay, very good. Now, why is it then necessary to have a flopper or stopper? Well, the boat is sailed with the rig really loose. Why? It is so that when we start going downwind, here's the forestay and bridle wires. When we start going downwind, we have a line that comes from here. Different people have different kind of methods of doing this. So as we're sailing downwind, we pull this line tight, and what that does is pulls the rig forwards like this. Rig goes forwards, which presents more sail to the wind, which makes the boat quicker downwind. So that is the reason for the flopper stopper. The other reason is because if you sailed in waves with a rig that loose, just going bang, 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 eventually the mast's going to fall down for one reason or another, because the rigging doesn't like these sudden impacts where it's just going bang, bang, bang. So there we go. All right. So, just going back into the live chat just to finish. Levi says, Joe, you're the man. Thanks for answering the questions. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming. Two big fun. Oh, Christian is with us. Nice to have you on board, Christian. Two big thumbs up for the modules. Yeah, Christian has been in charge of letting me know when the modules have uploaded in the wrong order. Like the last one I uploaded it. I thought, I'm not going to let Christian tell me again that that's wrong. So I went back to it, checked, it was right. The next day, it was in the wrong order again. So I think YouTube is out to get me at times. Yeah, okay. So Christian says, any teasers for the titles of upcoming modules? Well, there's the thing. Yeah, with the modules, I've kind of got to the stage, you know, we've done 14 now. That's a lot of stuff. I think I've covered a lot. And I'm not saying that I'm stuck for ideas. And what I don't want to do is produce a module of a lesser quality that is just like for the sake of it, because I said we were going to have 20. But yeah, so what I'm looking for is suggestions of what it is that people feel is missing from the modules which are already out there. I'm feeling that a module on, it doesn't even need to be a full module. It could be a slightly shorter one, because like we have been going longer and longer in how long these modules are. But we could do a shorter one on taking other people sailing for the first time, taking out new sailors, helping people with their boats. That's getting people into the sport. I think that's a good one. I was thinking to do one on rudder tuning, but then thinking about it, it's like that video really needs a boat. We can't do rudder tuning on the whiteboard and not just say, well, I would show you, but we haven't got a boat. Yeah. So those were two ideas that I had. Okay. Christian said, vote for module 20, long distance adventuring. Yes, that is a great idea. All right, so I'm completely open to suggestion, but at the moment, being completely honest, I don't know what's coming next week. I'm going to be going back through the Q&A videos and my video library on Joyrider TV and see what we could take a deep dive into. Last bit of big news, tomorrow out on Joyrider TV, I've been collaborating with Australian catamaran sailing hero John Forbes, who has been at the Formula 18 World Championships, getting the best footage and interviewing a lot of the teams. And we've put a video together, which is coming out tomorrow at the usual time on Joyrider TV, which is an inside look at the Formula 18 World Championships, which have just finished in Western Australia. So keep an eye out for that one. Then we got the boat explainer video on Sunday. And then there we are. And if you hadn't heard, yes, there's a new YouTube channel. Have I got the right thing? No, I haven't. There's a new YouTube channel. If you want to see more about that, just head over to totaljoyrider.com, and I've put a new thing right at the top of the page. This is a YouTube channel where everybody is posting videos. So it's not about me, it's about you guys. It's a place to put your videos so that they're going to get seen by more people. I think it's a great idea. I think it's possibly the first time that anybody is doing something like this. So let's make it work. Thanks very much in advance for getting involved, and see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV. Thank you very much.